엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un calls for a change to the constitution, identifying the South as the #1 hostile state. In response, South Korean President Yoon vows to punish the North multiple times stronger should the regime carry out a provocation. Former United States President Donald Trump wins big in the Iowa Caucuses, the U.S.'s first election contest of this year, solidifying his status as a Republican frontrunner in his bid to return to the White House in 2024. South Korea-born American actor Yeun wins his first Emmy yet for Outstanding Lead Actor with the Netflix series Beef, with it dominating limited series accolades. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with North Korea's escalating rhetoric against the South. The regime's leader Kim Jong-un calls for a change in constitution, defining South Korea as the #1 hostile state. He adds that peaceful reunification with the South is no longer possible. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil begins our coverage tonight.
Yet another hostile remark from North Korea's leader. During a key meeting of North Korea's Supreme People's Assembly on Monday, leader Kim Jong-un said his regime needs to firmly define South Korea as the #1 hostile country and an unchangeable enemy of the North. Kim went on to say that the constitutional amendment must include the issue of fully occupying South Korea and incorporating it into the North's territory in the event of a war. According to the state-run Rodong-sinmun newspaper, Kim said the regime's education and cultural sectors must promote these ideas. Pyongyang also announced that it was closing down the National Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland, as unification will never be realized. The committee worked as a counterpart to South Korea's Unification Ministry. In addition, the agency in charge of the Mount Kumgang tourism project will be shut down. Mount Kumgang used to be one of the few places where South Koreans could visit the North legally. The Ministry of Unification released a statement on Tuesday saying the North's moves were a political provocation seeking to create divisions in South Korean society. It added that the so-called Two Koreas theory promulgated by the North defied the long history of Koreans living together and was an anti-national and anti-historical act that threatened these same people with nuclear weapons. Chun Ha-gyu, a Ministry of National Defense spokesperson, also commented on the issue.
North Korea's intentions of using force to unify South Korea have never changed, as it continues to carry out various provocations to this day. Our military is facing this head-on and maintains a firm mental and military readiness.
Regarding the northern limit line, the de facto sea border between the two Koreas that Kim refuses to recognize, Chun added that this would be protected at all costs. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And in response to the North's rhetoric, South Korean President Yoon vows to punish the North multiple times stronger should the regime carry out a provocation. He criticized what the regime says is against its own heritage and history. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
Just hours after North Korea's state media reported on Kim Jong-un's decision to constitutionally label South Korea as the regime's #1 hostile country, President Yoon didn't shy away when hitting back with remarks of his own.
이는 북한 정권 스스로가 반민족적이고 반역사적 집단이라는 사실을 자인한 것입니다.
On the contrary, South Korea's constitution says the nation's territory is all of the Korean peninsula and that it shall seek peaceful unification based on democratic order. The comments came at a planned cabinet meeting where the president usually broadcasts his opening statements live. There he also reiterated that the nation is ready to retaliate against any provocation, multiple times stronger. And referring to the statement that Pyongyang will not be recognizing the northern limit line, the de facto inter-Korean maritime border, Yoon said it's an attempt to make people anxious and divide South Korea. In fact, he called for unity to fight against the propaganda.
전쟁이냐 평화냐를 협박하는 재래의 위장 평화 전술은 더 이상 통하지 않습니다. 우리 국민과 정부는 하나가 되어 북한 정권의 기만 전술과 선전선동을 물리쳐 나아가야 합니다.
And amidst the exchange of harsh words, he underscored that the true threat is not the people of North Korea, but its regime.
북한 주민들은 우리와 똑같이 자유와 인권과 번영을 누릴 권리를 가진 우리와 같은 민족입니다. 우리는 이들을 따뜻하게 포용해 나가야 합니다.
And despite North Korea's deciding to shut down all agencies related to inter-Korean relations, President Yoon ordered for more work to be done by South Korea's Unification Ministry. Specifically, he said the nation will do more to help North Korean defectors settle in South Korea and said the ministry needs to legally designate a day to celebrate the North Korean defectors. He also called on the foreign ministry to cooperate with the global community to help and protect the defectors. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
North Korean Foreign Minister Choe Son-hee, currently on a 3-day visit to Moscow, met with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday. They discussed ways to expand mutual ties and issues concerning the Korean Peninsula. Lavrov said at the start of the meeting that despite Russia's support for peace on the peninsula, the U.S. and its allies are building tensions. Meanwhile, Choe and Lavrov are set to greet Putin together later in the day and share what they discussed. Over in the U.S., former United States President Donald Trump wins an overwhelming victory in the first 2024 Republican presidential contest in Iowa, taking a step toward a rematch with President Joe Biden. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis finished in second place. Bae-eun-ji has the details.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump scored a decisive win in the Iowa Caucuses on Monday, solidifying his firm status as the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination. Trump secured more than half the votes with about 51%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis finished second with 21%, with former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley closely behind with 19%.
They said, well, if you win by 12%, that's a big win. That's going to be very hard to do. Well, I think we've more than doubled that, I guess, tripled it maybe.
Monday's win does not guarantee Trump the party's nomination, but it does give him a strong start in the race. Also, because Iowa is the first contest, Iowa caucuses have historically played an important role in narrowing the presidential field. And the results are seen as having a big influence on media coverage and public perception. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who finished in second place, thanked supporters for backing him.
Because of your support, in spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
For DeSantis, the focus is now on the primary race in New Hampshire on January 23rd. Meanwhile, biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out of the presidential race after finishing fourth in Iowa on Monday. He then formally endorsed Donald Trump, as public opinion surveys show that his supporters have the former president as their second choice. Democrats will kick off their first official primary on February 3rd in South Carolina, with President Joe Biden seeking to run for re-election. The U.S. presidential election is set for November 5th. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, Iran-backed Houthi rebels struck a U.S.-owned and operated cargo ship on Monday using an anti-ship ballistic missile. The attack came days after a U.S.-led coalition carried out strikes against the rebel group. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
Tensions continue to flare in the Red Sea as Yemen's Houthi rebels launched an anti-ship ballistic missile which struck a U.S.-owned and operated cargo ship on Monday. The attack against the Gibraltar Eagle marks the first time the rebel group have successfully struck a U.S.-owned or operated ship. The Marshall Island-flagged bulk carrier sustained minor damage but did not report any injuries on board. The attack comes as the Houthis announced their intention to target American ships. A Houthi spokesman added that the U.S., which recently led multinational airstrikes targeting Houthi strongholds in Yemen, was in danger of losing maritime security. He went on to say that all ships from countries participating in military attacks against them are considered enemy targets. Meanwhile, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav said on Monday that Palestinians will govern the Gaza Strip after the war with Israel ends, adding that Hamas rule and military threat in the enclave will also end after the war. At a press conference, Gallant stressed that as Palestinians live in the Gaza Strip, it will be the Palestinians who will live and govern it in the future. He said there would no longer be any military threat from Gaza, as the militant group won't be able to rule and function as a military force in the region. The defense chief added that the future government would be a civilian alternative, but insisted that the Israeli military would have the freedom of operation in order to protect Israeli citizens. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the local front, the Korean government aims to front-load a significant amount of its budget in the first half of the year to help ease the cost of living for people as inflation remains high. Lee Soo-jin explains.
South Korea is set to spend heavily in the first half of the year in a bid to improve people's livelihoods. The Finance Ministry announced during an emergency economic meeting on Tuesday that the government will spend a record 65% of the central government's funds for the year during the first 6 months of 2024. This comes as South Korea continues to see weak consumption due to high inflation despite signs of economic recovery.
While the economy is showing a recovery mainly due to exports, it is expected to be difficult for people to feel this recovery in their daily lives during the first half of the year due to high inflation and interest rates.
Including local government funds, the government's plan to spend around 350 trillion won or some $260 billion in just the first half of 2024. And a significant portion of it is set to be allocated to welfare for vulnerable groups, job creation, and social overhead capital projects. The government is also moving to stabilize prices of 16 commodities in high demand to ease the burden of inflation ahead of Seollal or the New Year holiday. It aims to maintain the average prices of 16 Lunar New Year holiday commodities, such as apples and pears, below 2023 levels. It would also help provide discounts of up to 60% on agricultural, livestock, and fishery products.
We plan to supply a record 260,000 tons of high-demand products and provide discounts to manage prices at levels lower than last year's. There will be a focus on keeping the increase in prices of apples and pears in the single digits.
State-run expressway tolls will also be waived throughout the Lunar New Year holiday from February 9th to February 12th. To accommodate the increased demand for air travel over the holidays, the government also plans to increase international flights by around 10% compared to the end of last year. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's auto exports for last year hit an all-time high thanks to eco-friendly cars. And our An Sung-jin explains how the country looks to further expand the sector, specifically through tax incentives and cutting the red tape.
South Korea's automobile exports hit a record high in 2023. According to the Trade Ministry on Tuesday, the total value of exports last year reached $70.9 billion. More than a third of that figure came from eco-friendly vehicles. The total value of exports in 2023 is an increase of 30% compared to that of 2022. In terms of production, 4,240,000 cars were produced, exceeding the 4 million mark for the first time since 2018. This is largely due to a recovery in the supply of automotive semiconductors. Nearly 70% of the cars manufactured in South Korea were exported, with North America being the main market, followed by the EU. Also in 2023, the auto industry created the highest number of jobs within the country's manufacturing sector. One expert says that this is only going to get better this year.
Alongside the outlook that the U.S. Fed will cut its interest rate throughout the year, as Hyundai expects to finish building its first U.S. EV plant in Georgia. All EVs produced will receive subsidies, increasing the sales of eco-friendly cars. Premium cars such as the Genesis brand are also becoming popular in European countries such as Germany.
The government aims to further bolster competitiveness in the electric vehicle sector by innovating regulations for the industry, extending tax benefits, and investing in establishing large-scale manufacturing facilities in areas including the city of Ulsan. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Seoul's Trade Ministry have shared their latest blueprint on fostering the nation's robotics sector, focusing on intelligent robots. Our Moon Hae-ryun explains.
As robots and artificial intelligence are becoming increasingly integrated across all industries, the government has unveiled its blueprint for South Korea's robot industry. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy sets up a plan every 5 years to foster the development of intelligent robots in the country. And the one announced on Tuesday is their fourth, with its goal set to be achieved by 2028. The fourth Intelligent Robot Basic Plan focuses on different strategies to support new businesses which use robots, to increase their participation in industry and society, and cultivate the country's robot industry as a whole. Authorities plan to achieve this through a variety of methods, namely through funding on a scale of 3 trillion Korean won or $2.2 billion until 2030. A key area they will be looking to support is domestic production of core robot parts, aiming for 80% of parts to be produced locally by 2030. To do this, the government will be encouraging the participation of companies with high demand for robots during the development process. They will also nurture more manpower in the sector by funding robot-based education programs such as graduate schools and establishing a second center for training robot operators and coordinators. Various ministries are set to come together to achieve the goal of supplying 1 million high-tech robots by 2030 and improve 51 different regulations to promote and support distribution as soon as possible. In addition, they will increase cooperation to aid domestic robot companies entering overseas markets through active public relations and networking support, and applying for the necessary overseas certifications. To ease concerns surrounding robots, the government is planning to release a detailed guideline so that they are developed and used for the right reasons. Around $150 million will be spent on building a national robot test field to verify the stability and reliability of robots, with the aim of speeding up the process of putting robots in the development stage on the market. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
This year's World Economic Forum has opened doors in Davos, and organizers say it comes amid the most challenging geopolitical situations to date. Our Yeun has details.
Global elites, from business leaders to heads of state, are in Davos for the 54th World Economic Forum, which kicked off Monday morning local time under the theme of Rebuilding Trust. The backdrop of this year's meeting is even more complex, with issues including geopolitical tensions, evolving economic policies, and rapid technological advancements. Founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, gave opening remarks alongside the WEF president and the president of Switzerland. Addresses were also made by Chinese Premier Li Qiang and the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. With 2,800 participants from 120 countries, much of this year's focus is expected to be on high-level diplomatic talks on wars in the Middle East, Ukraine, and Africa. On Monday, Switzerland agreed to host the Global Peace Summit for Ukraine at the request of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Further details are set to be worked out starting Tuesday, but Zelensky has said that as one of Russia's key allies, China has a big role to play and called for Beijing's participation in the peace talks. Meanwhile, the Kremlin on Monday dismissed talks in Davos over Ukraine's peace proposals, saying nothing would be achieved because Russia was not part of the discussions. Representing the U.S., Secretary of State Antony Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry are in attendance. Leaders from international bodies and civil society groups also joining the forum include the United Nations' Antonio Guterres, NATO's Jens Stoltenberg, the World Health Organization's Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, and Tirana Hassan of Human Rights Watch. And prominent figures related to the global economy at the forum include the International Monetary Fund Managing Director, the World Bank President, and the World Trade Organization Director General. Yeun, Arirang News.
And turning to the 75th Emmys in Los Angeles, Korean-American actor Steven Yeun has added another award to his collection. He won the Outstanding Lead Actor Award for his role in the Netflix series Beef. Our Yeun has the details.
South Korea-born American actor Steven Yeun has captured the first Emmy of his career for his role in the Netflix series Beef. He won the Outstanding Lead Actor Award in a limited series or TV movie at the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards, which took place on Monday local time in Los Angeles. Beef is a comedy drama where Yeun stars as Danny Choe, a second-generation immigrant working as a building contractor who becomes embroiled in a road rage confrontation.
Well, our goal was never to silo ourselves as separate. We want to connect with everybody. We're telling human stories.
While talking about the impact of the series, Yeun also expressed his gratefulness to be living in a time where differences are appreciated.
Honestly, I feel blessed that we live in this time where we can all kind of see past ways in which we separate ourselves, celebrate those, but also come together. It feels really nice.
Yeun's co-star Ali Wong won Outstanding Lead Actress in the same category. Beef won a total of 8 awards at the Emmys, including Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series and Outstanding Directing for the show's creator, Korean-American Lee Sung-jin. Steven Yeun has picked up multiple awards in the U.S. for his role in Beef. The Emmys comes just over a week after the Golden Globes, where Yeun and Ali Wong became the first actors of Asian descent to win in their categories. He also took home Best Actor in a limited series at the Critics' Choice Awards. Yeun, Arirang News.
Staying in the U.S., dangerous freezing air from the Arctic continued sweeping across the U.S. on Monday in a prolonged cold blast that has set record low temperatures and disrupted daily life, including the Republican presidential nomination contest in Iowa. Much of the U.S. has been dealing with extreme winter weather over the past few days, with about 125 million people under wind chill advisories or warnings. The U.S. National Weather Service said wind chills are expected to push Tuesday's temperatures to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, or roughly minus 34 degrees Celsius, from the northern Rockies to northern Kansas into Iowa, with temperatures of 50 degrees below zero in Montana and the Dakotas. Severe storms over the last few days have left at least 9 people dead across 5 states.
Even though today started with a cold snap, the temperatures increased significantly from the daytime. Clouds gradually increased across the country from this afternoon. There will be light rain or snow in the forecast for tomorrow, mainly in the center areas and Jeollado provinces. The rain will start in the Seoul metropolitan area and Chungcheongdo provinces tomorrow afternoon and gradually expand to Gangwon-do province and southern regions. As for the amount of rain, 1 to 5 millimeters is expected around the country, which is not too much, but rain in mountainous areas where the temperatures are low may turn into snow. This rain and snow will continue until the day after tomorrow in the center areas and late in the week in the southern parts of the country. In particular, in Yeongdong, strong and heavy snow can last long until Sunday, so it's important to be prepared. Tomorrow's Seoul will start off at minus 2 degrees Celsius, Daejeon and Gyeongju minus 3 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul will get up to 4 degrees, along with Chuncheon and Daejeon. No frigid spell is around for the rest of the week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Good night.